Have you ever, looked up at the sky and wondered what else might be up there beyond, the birds and planes and all that? Especially when you're thinking about a place that's been through something as dramatic as a volcanic eruption.
It does make you think, doesn't it? What else could be out there? I mean, there's so much we still don't know about our own planet, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we're digging into today, a deep dive into a pretty bizarre mystery, the legend of Batsquatch, a creature said to inhabit the area around Mount St. Helens.
Batsquatch. Now, there's a name that grabs your attention. Right. It's like, what even is that?
Right. And the early accounts, they paint this really strange picture. A large ape-like creature, but with bat wings and glowing red or yellow eyes. It's a pretty wild concept.
It's like somebody took Bigfoot and a giant bat and just kind of mashed them together.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole legend seems to be tied to the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. And that was no small event.
Oh, absolutely not. It was a massive, catastrophic event. I mean, think about it. A 10,000-foot ash plume right off the bat, debris flying as far as Bend and Spokane.
Yeah, I mean, that's a long way. And it just kept going, right? Earthquakes, more ash, and then boom, May 18th hits. That landslide, it's almost impossible to comprehend. The whole north face of the mountain just collapses.
Moving at 115 miles per hour, it was just an unbelievable display of power.
And then the eruption column, shooting 80,000 feet into the air, ash everywhere. They even found ash in North Mexico and Minnesota. It was just insane.
Absolutely. It was a defining moment for the Pacific Northwest, and I think for a lot of people it was a very traumatic experience.
Yeah, definitely. And that sense of that sense of trauma and strangeness, it kind of set the stage for these initial sightings of something weird in the sky.
Yeah.
But it took a while for anyone to really, have a close encounter, right? It wasn't until 1994.
That's right, 1994. That's when we have the first really detailed account of Batsquatch, a man named Brian Canfield.
Okay, so Canfield's story. He was driving through the backwoods of Pierce County, Washington, late at night. The middle of nowhere, basically.
Pretty isolated area, the kind of place where, things could get a little creepy after dark.
Exactly. And that's when his car just dies. Engine quits, lights go out. He's all alone, can't get the car started.
Must have been a pretty unsettling feeling, huh? Stranded out there in the dark.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And as he's about to get out and check under the hood, he sees something in his headlights.
Probably thought it was a deer or something at first, right? Something normal for that area.
Right. But then this thing lands right on the hood of his truck, right in front of him.
Talk about a shock. So what did he see?
Well, according to Canfield, it was about 9 feet tall, with a bat-like face and wings. But get this, the body was humanoid, and it was covered in blue fur. Blue fur.
Blue fur? That's pretty unusual. Not exactly the kind of camouflage you'd expect for an animal out in the woods.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
And it had these huge fangs and these glowing red eyes that were just staring at him.
So it's this bizarre combination of bat and ape features, and then the blue fur just throws in this whole other layer of weirdness.
Yeah. But what really struck me about his account was, it was his reaction. He was terrified, obviously, but he didn't feel like it was going to attack him. He said he felt more out of place, like he was the one intruding.
That's interesting. It's almost like he sensed some kind of intelligence, maybe even a sense of purpose from this creature. It wasn't just a mindless beast,
Yeah. And then it just stood there on the hood of his truck for what felt like forever, completely still. And then its fingers twitched and these massive wings started to unfold.
Oh, wow. And how big were the wings?
He said they were as wide as the road.
As wide as the road. That's huge. I mean, we're talking about a massive wingspan here.
Right. And then as suddenly as it died, his truck just starts back up. He didn't do anything. It just started.
Okay, now that's just creepy. Like, the creature just decided he'd had enough of a show and let him go.
I know. So, needless to say, he got out of there as fast as he could. And that's where the name Batsquatch comes from. A writer for the News Tribune named C.R. Roberts interviewed Canfield, and, he came up with the name.
And it's a good one. It's catchy. It's descriptive. It really captures the essence of this creature,
It really does. And after Canfield's story came out, other people started reporting their own encounters, right?
Yes, there were a number of other sightings reported around the same time.
Like Butch Whitaker. He was, he owned a liquor store, and he claimed to have seen Batsquatch from his plane.
In broad daylight.
Yep. Flying right beside him for several minutes before disappearing. And this is a guy who, knew his way around planes in the sky. He wasn't just some random hiker, you know?
So another credible witness. And from a completely different vantage point, it starts to build this body of evidence, even if it's all anecdotal.
Right, but then some of the descriptions start to get a little, well, a little inconsistent.
Oh yeah. The details definitely get a little fuzzy, like the 1998 report from that anonymous trucker up in northern Oregon.
Yeah. He said he hit something with his truck that he thought was Batsquatch, but his description was way off.
How so?
He described it as 15 feet tall, with purple eyes and nose and tiny wings.
15 feet tall with tiny wings. That doesn't sound very aerodynamically sound, does it?
Right, and the purple eyes and nose, it's just so different from Canfield's account. Makes you wonder if they were even seeing the same thing, you know?
It does raise some questions about the reliability of these eyewitness accounts. Maybe there are multiple creatures out there. Or maybe it's just a case of, well, maybe people's imaginations are running wild.
Yeah, possibly. And then you've got the 2009 sighting down near Mount Shasta. A hiker reported seeing a flying humanoid with bat-like features,
Yeah.
but described it as stocky as Hulk Hogan with a 50-foot wingspan.
50 feet. Now that is just massive.
I know. It just keeps getting bigger and weirder. Right. And then in 2011, another report from a Washington resident who was walking their dog. This one was back to around 9 feet tall, blue fur, but a wolf-like face with glowing red eyes.
So some consistent details, like the blue fur and the glowing eyes, but then other details that are just completely different.
Yeah, it's all over the place. But you know what's interesting? Batsquatch kind of fits into this whole category of winged cryptids, right? We've got Mothman, the Jersey Devil.
Oh, absolutely. There's a long history of stories about mysterious winged creatures, and they seem to pop up all over the world.
Right. You mentioned Indonesia's orange pati and New Guinea's ahua.
Yeah. These bat-like creatures, they appear in folklore across cultures and throughout history. It's really fascinating.
It makes you wonder, like, is there something in our collective unconscious, some deep-seated fear of things that fly? Or is there, something more to it?
It's a good question. Maybe it's just our innate fear of predators, things that can swoop down on us from above. Or maybe, just maybe, there's something else going on that we don't fully understand.
Maybe. But regardless of the explanation, Batsquatch has definitely captured people's imaginations, right?
Yeah.
It's even made its way into pop culture.
Yeah, it's kind of become a bit of a cult figure, hasn't it?
You can even get a Batsquatch IPA from Rogue Brewery. They said they chose the name because the details of the creature are all hazy, so it seemed fitting for a hazy IPA. Pretty clever, right?
I like it. It's a good way to tie in the legend with their product.
And Batsquatch was even featured on that Monsters of America show, so it's getting some mainstream attention, even if it's not quite at Bigfoot level yet.
Yeah, I guess Bigfoot's still the king of the cryptids, at least for now.
But, not everyone buys into the whole Batsquatch thing, right? There are definitely some more skeptical perspectives out there.
Oh, of course. And honestly, the most plausible explanation is probably misidentification.
Like people mistaking large owls for something more sinister.
Yeah, especially at dusk or in low light. An owl could be pretty startling, and its size and the sound of its wings could easily be misconstrued.
That makes sense. And then you've got the whole lost pterosaur theory, which, well, that seems a little far-fetched, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a fun idea, but there's just no scientific evidence to support it. Pterosaurs went extinct millions of years ago, and besides, their anatomy doesn't really match up with the Batsquatch descriptions anyway.
Right. What about the idea that, that maybe the trauma of the Mount St. Helens eruption played a role in these sightings,
Yeah.
like a form of mass hysteria?
That's an interesting theory. I mean, after such a catastrophic event, people were understandably on edge, and their perceptions might have been skewed. So it's certainly possible that some of the early reports were influenced by that collective trauma.
Yeah. And then there are the really out there theories, interdimensional portals opened by the eruption, government experiments gone wrong.
Right, the classic conspiracy theories. They always seem to pop up around these kinds of mysteries, don't they?
They do. But it's interesting. Even before Batsquatch, there were stories in the area about strange ape-like creatures, like the skookum.
Oh, yeah, the Skookum. A mythical tribe of ape men said to live in another dimension. They were known for being pretty violent.
So this idea of ape-like creatures in the area wasn't new. And it even ties into some of the local names, right? Like Ape Cave.
Well, actually, Ape Cave was named after a Boy Scout troop, the Ape Patrol.
Oh, right. But nearby Ape Canyon is named after an alleged Bigfoot encounter back in 1924. And there's also the St. Helens apes, another Boy Scout troop named after Bigfoot lore. So even though it's not a direct connection to a winged creature, there was definitely this pre-existing idea of, well, of ape-like beings in the region.
It's interesting how these local legends can evolve and adapt over time. Maybe the eruption of Mount St. Helens just added a new layer to the existing folklore.
Yeah, maybe. So we've got this incredibly powerful, destructive event, a whole lot of strange sightings, and this, well, this creature that's part bat, part ape, maybe blue, maybe with a wolf face. It's all pretty wild, isn't it?
It is. And it just goes to show that there's still so much mystery out there in the world. We may never know for sure what people saw in those skies after the eruption, but it sure makes for some fascinating stories, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. And it makes you wonder what other mysteries are out there just waiting to be discovered. Or maybe, just waiting to be imagined. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.